Well, hello there, everyone. Here's show right here is like talk about for Denny's, online, and basically that for like the Denny's restaurant, and I'm sure most of us remember that some that the commercial that I went and shared with with most of anybody that would have been checking out my latest YouTube postings and like warned to where that yeah that for any of that anything that is related to like for Denny's and I know that with that commercial though that they basically not knowing about. I'm like, yeah, that if we can remember that some of those old commercials that came on back in the early in the 19 say between 1998 and early of 1997 or so in 99, and I can remember that a lot of times that they would come on at late night hours. Sometimes it was between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes even on the weekends that I would record shows, and I know a lot of it was like the Three Stooges shows. But on your hand, that Three Stooges shows, whenever we go on commercial break, that I can remember seeing a lot of those old commercials, and you're like Warren to where anybody that wonders to where they yeah about Denny's and then a few other commercials as well. But one of those was about the Denny's commercials, and that whenever they would come on, most of us know about that. There will be somebody on about a guy, and as well as three people that were talking about maybe a special on the menu or something like that. A line Kaluba, three. I think a bucket of fish eggs or something like that. A bucket of fish eggs or something like that, and then 300 $300 a pound or something like that. And then it's like, see over at Denny's, they got a glass where they have serving eggs. They cooked them. But on the other hand, that with for like Denny's though, the Denny's restaurant, that I'm sure that they may talk is like for ways of how they serve their eggs, especially I might that a lot of people would probably the customers would probably ask for is like ways of how they want their eggs to be served. Sunny side down and don't turn it over, or maybe cooked on one side. May be served with like maybe a slice of toast or something like that, or maybe and I don't know. I'm like anything on the menu that really that anybody asks. It's like maybe Cheerios or pretzels or anything like that. Like what, like but still for like whenever we do go out to dinner at places like Denny's, whenever we look at maybe the specials or maybe that what's on the kids menu, and I don't know, do any of us ever look carefully about on the menu as to where they anything for the kids though, as to where they may have maybe juice or maybe milk or something like that available for kids, and as well as maybe the cereal, it's like they may offer you like a and then something that maybe they could be ready in about 5 minutes or so. That if the kids come hungry and that whatever that they do, you order off the menu. That if it's going to be about maybe 20 or 30 minutes or so until the order is delivered. And so sometimes when we do go to restaurants, that I can remember that a couple of times that yeah, that if we're going to be going to a restaurant and maybe visiting if you're going to be going to a restaurant with somebody that that you haven't seen in a long time, and you start talking to them, and it seems like time flies a little bit faster to where that after the waiter or waitress takes your order, and then after about maybe 25 minutes or so, and then they bring your food to you. So sometimes it seems like to where if you're going to be ordering anything such as fried chicken, or maybe pork steaks, or maybe sausage McRibs, or anything like that, or maybe salads, garden salads, or anything that could be on the menu. And I know that when we do order though, that they might like a lot of people would probably say it's like that. Does that come with French fries or coleslaw, or does for like medium well, it's like a well cooked. Yeah, and then they may serve a little bit onions as well, and then along with broccoli, and then it's catfish, or anything like that, and anything that we may think that we would maybe find on the menu. And I did not include the fork and spoon, and I'm sure anybody that may want to where that yeah, if you have time to draw some examples of maybe that the fork and spoon, I'm like, yeah, that draw an example right here of like a guy right here is a spoon right here. But the fork and spoon, and whenever we go to a restaurant, actually sit down at the restaurant, and then sometimes it like the forks and spoons and are usually ready. Like they are folded up into like, if you want to call it like a napkin, type handkerchief. But on the other hand, that we learned to where that for any tables, anything that we may find at the tables besides the the salt and pepper shakers or something like that. But on the other hand, I talk about say with the waiters though, is that with this example right here of a waiter, it could be a waitress too, and then they would be like say talking to the kids, at the kids were to be going to Denny's, just to be able to get something off the menu, and they're like wanting to where like I want cereal, or that they would maybe say something about maybe chicken strips. I want some chicken strips, and like okay, well, what would you like with that? And then like ketchup or some. So they're more likely though that there may be something on the menu to where that they may recommend them to like, hey, well, why don't you try this on the menu, so that they so sometimes though that yeah, you go to a restaurant and whenever you look at the menu, and then sometimes that they would have like something on special, such as maybe on the kids menus at something for about less than $7 or about right around $5 or so, right about affordable price, and pretty good special buy to where you could buy something such as that if any kids that they come there maybe for chicken fingers or something like that, chicken strips, or maybe other something that maybe the kids would like to have, that you say maybe cereal, or that I really don't know exactly about what all that will more likely be on the menu necessarily, but that the kids though, that whenever they would order something, and then I think necessarily to where unless they were to buy maybe the buffet, I like that they would actually what you call is like you go to the buffet where they actually go up to the bar, and then actually pick a get a plate full of food, and then eat what all you can eat, like say for a buffet. But on the other hand, that really, whenever you come to Denny's and you're like Warren, to where that you eat have to go there for dinner, and then maybe how often do you want to have any room for dessert? And I know that sometimes that whenever you go there for dinner, that they may talk to you about maybe for what's available for dessert, such as maybe cheesecake, or cookie crispy pie, or maybe apple pie, or maybe Jello, or I'm not trying to make anybody hungry, but on your hand that with anything that more likely that could be on the menu. And this right here will be an example right here of like it's like for Denny's online. So if anybody were to be warned to where that we may have seen the commercials a lot, and anybody that may warn to where that do you think that maybe your future job that you would be maybe be putting together a web designing project for like for Denny's.com, and for Denny's online, to where that you can actually place orders online, and then they may have it to where it be delivered, or that I don't know. I'm like anybody that may tell you that if you were to order something online from the Denny's.com restaurant, and then it's possible that they may mention about as to where that maybe a special buy, or maybe that you would likely have coupons. It's like for coupons or so. But on your hand, that I guess that they might likely say is to where that if you are trying, if it's like a group of 3 or 4 people or so, and then that's another thing too, like Denny's online, that you would be able to connect with maybe waiters maybe who work in different restaurants, maybe all around the state, that they may also say is to where that's a possibility, to where if you were to place your order online, you would be able to talk to other cooks, and then other other managements, like other waiters or waitresses. You can maybe be talking to them maybe at a Denny's restaurant, maybe in some within about maybe 100 or 200 miles or so away. So you're like wondering to where a lot of that stuff that's online, and at the time, thinking about is to where yeah, whenever I look at some of those old Denny's commercials and thinking about is to where yeah, that I know the internet was around during that time, but I guess not really like Facebook, no. But on the other hand, that with online though that they more likely weren't to where that for maybe anybody who's going to be you say you're running for Denny's online and warrant to where that well yeah they may have used it mainly for during that time that they may have used it maybe for updates on their specials or anything like that or anything about Denny's other Denny's locations about how to find the locations as well. So that's just a thing about that this kind of reminds me of from like the Bob Evans commercials and as well as Steak and Shake and as well as a few other restaurants as well. That yeah, another one was it's like I know I can maybe think of a few other restaurants as well. Golden Corral and then also that there's other restaurants that I'm sure that we may be familiar with that like Applebee's, and I know that this reminds me of whenever I got my first job that a teacher asked me. It's like one about three of them or so. It's like that yeah that when asked me, it's like well you get a like whenever you get a job and I want you to treat me out to Applebee's or so. So the way I think about those, yeah, if anybody were to ask you to treat them for Applebee's, but then I was like, well, they're just kidding. They're just, they would, say that, that they would appreciate if you do take them out to dinner or so, or take them out to lunch. And I know, like with anybody, to where that if you meet anybody in particular and you're like Warren, to where that wondering to her, hey, I like if you would like to join me for lunch or dinner over there at over at Ponderosa or maybe over at yeah, and I know a few restaurants that say that some of them that where they have gone out of business and some that relocated or whichever kind, but on the other hand, with like Denny's though, is to where that I know with Denny's that I remember seeing the commercials a lot of times too back in those days, and like weren't to where that yeah that the way that that you take people's orders and they're like one or two. Okay, well I'll be your waiter for today. What would you like? Well, we have like a did you try chicken as well as the diavole or the garden salad or like and then as well for the kids though the kids would take their orders and I know that sometimes anybody that would say whenever they would take an order and once or twice that I think that yeah that they would order something off the menu, but then they would ask, it's like, yeah, that I would like to have the French toast sandwich or so. Do not include the eggs, but then include the salsa or that include the cheese or something. And I know that like with anybody, is to where that if you're going to be allergic to maybe the onions or cheese, and then they ask, it's like that don't include that on your order. So it's like, yeah, you're like Warren to where that if there's anything yeah, that such as to where that, and I know that like there may be some restaurants that more likely to do that to where that they the way that they cook their food, it's to where that something but that how they cook the food that more gives it like say like a strong flavoring or something like that. But anyway, but on the other hand, it with Denny's though is that for anything that they could be on the menus to where anybody that whenever they place an order, they may decide to where if they want to include something or leave something out. But on the other hand, I guess to say is like is to where that I can remember this that a couple times that anybody that may warrant to where that yeah that who's going to leave the tip for the waiter or the waitress, and then knowing about is to work on paying for the ticket as well. And I know that sometimes though that whenever you do go to some restaurants is that yeah that you look at the ticket for the for the cost of the meal it is, and then you're like warrant where you go to the restaurant, and then sometimes that they ask you for your feedback as well. But the whole part about the commercial though is you have right here is an example right here of like fried eggs is like a plate. This right here could be like maybe waffles or maybe pancakes. So this right here could be like a breakfast item, or it could be what you call, for brunch or for lunch or maybe for dinner. And so you get a plate or two full of food, and and then it's like, well, do you have enough room for a dessert? And I can maybe include like here as an example right here of a glass. And I know anybody probably say whenever you first go to a restaurant, and then they likely weren't, or that what's the first thing that maybe that they would like, that the customers would more likely like to have when they first arrive at the restaurant. It's like, can you take my drink order, and do you have a special on your coffee, and then juice. It's like, and I know that like with anybody, whenever they do go to Denny's, that they would maybe like to ask. It's like, do you have any juice, or do you like for coffee? And I guess they say they have about maybe 3 different kinds or so of coffee. But the way I think about it, though, is like really that anybody that may want, or you see those Denny's commercials advertised on TV a long time ago, and sometimes that they came on between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes, especially on the weekends, it was like people probably think about, well, you shouldn't be up that late watching TV or so. But on your hand, too, that I guess to say that when people come into customers come into the restaurant and like Warren Tour, well, what are you doing out this late? So it's like Warren Tour that anything that is related to like between the hours of 1 and 5 o'clock or so in the morning, that some people may think that they may be close by to the restaurant or just passing through. And I know, like with anybody, that if anybody who's going to be maybe traveling a lot, or truck drivers or so, that they may say is while they're on the road that they may go ahead and go into Denny's, and there may be a motel room, a motel building there nearby, so they go into Denny's and get a meal. And so they're like warranted to that anytime that they want to go into the restaurant to get a nice meal. But anyway, so it's like warrant tour. Anybody that may warrant tour about Denny's, though, it's like here at Denny's we got a glass of serving eggs. They cook them. Starting is just $2.99. But I remember those commercials, and I can remember that with with the Denny's commercial, that whenever I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, that anybody say if you're going to have a parent that's going to like to watch the commercial, and you're like warranted to her that, well, you watch the commercial, and then it's just something to where it just seems to where that way of how you meet people, especially. But on the other hand, that you're talking right here is that with the Denny's commercial, though, that for whatever reason, that the commercial remind me also is to where that you go into the restaurant, and then you're like warranted to where that well, that they take your drink order, and then you look at the menu for about maybe 5 minutes. And I can remember once or twice that whenever you go into a restaurant, that you're talking to somebody for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it's like the waitress or waiter that comes back like, are you all ready to order? And sometimes I think once or twice that they had to come back maybe 2 times and say, oh, are you ready? But that's just the thing about those. Whenever you go to a restaurant, that you go to a restaurant, and sometimes that it should a lot of times it only takes between 5 or 10 minutes or so, up to on average about 5 minutes for them to take the order. And then like with anybody, that they may warrant to where that if you don't like the way that the eggs were cooked or so, and then it's like if you like to have something else, but the way I think about it, though, is like really anybody who does want to take the orders off the menu, and they're thinking about is to where if there's something new on the menu, that they may say that well, I've tried this before, like what would you like? We have this on the menu, or we have this. It's like with a special of one of the two, and then you have like here's the special delay menu right here, the special the filet menu that it comes with 2 plates of servings of it's like of hash browns, and as well as that if anybody say like between ham and maybe chicken Alfredo or anything like that. So a few things that I know that you'll likely find on the menu, especially. So you're like Warren to where half the time that it's like between the salt and then the pepper. But the way I think about it though is like you walk into a restaurant and then it's like, yeah, if you're supposed to, especially if you're going to be with about maybe four people, and sometimes that by the time you take a seat and it's like, you know, you may not know exactly what you have your mind set for what you want to order, and then you're like, warrant to where, okay, well, do you got a special today, or that I'm not sure what's on the menu, but I'll look. But then the waiters or waitresses may say that, okay, what would you like today? Well, we are serving lunch, so that I would recommend maybe the salad, or maybe the chicken fried, a gratin or something like that, or it's like if it's anything that is related to soups or maybe chili. And I know, like with anybody, that they may think that if they order like pork steaks, or maybe fried chicken, or if it's anything that related to like maybe soups or anything like that, but dessert products. But anyway, but there you have it. Talk about for Denny's and Denny's online. And I know, like with anybody's, that remember that commercial, and I'm like wanting to where that, yeah, that for like that for the ways of how they serve their eggs, and then maybe the ways of how they serve their what you call if it's going to be toast, or if it's going to be maybe the pancakes and waffles. So I'm like warned toward, especially during breakfast time or so, like which I heard that like with anybody, is to where that we weren't to where that why is it that they even serve breakfast even at nighttime? You go in there between 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and somebody wants to have what you call chocolate chip waffles or chocolate chip pancakes with also your syrup or anything like that, strawberry your hash brown covered. It's like any hash browns along with the cinnamon roll. So they're like warned to where that yeah, they would say this to where that you order breakfast, especially at nighttime, and they say, yep, they'll serve it to you, and thinking necessarily to where that anybody that there's like a type of menu to where that you are used to having maybe breakfast, that there's something in particular about breakfast as to where it something that fills you up, and as well as something that that worth that satisfies your appetite especially. So anybody if anybody that wants to where that yeah, you go into a restaurant, and then you may start craving any type of cravings for like maybe for the fried chicken, or maybe for the for the sandwiches, especially for if it's going to be anything like such as barbecue ribs or anything like that. So I'm sure most of us will more likely know as to where they're at that whenever they walk into the restaurant, and sometimes they can smell the food cooking, especially, and like Warren to where that they decide to go ahead, and they sometimes it's like, oh, we'll dig in, go ahead and look at the menu, and then you'll order what you like. So it's like at the time you're like Warren to where that whenever you go into a restaurant, that you're wondering to where you're looking at the specials, and then looking at anything else they may offer on the menu, and you're like wondering to where, well, how do you serve your eggs? Well, what if I don't want anything included on my eggs, or if I can have something on the side, something like that. So I know that our stories about restaurants, if it's going to be about Denny's or so, and you're like Warren to where that you go in there, especially on a holiday or on your birthday or on your anniversary, and sometimes they may say is to where that they I know restaurants used to do that. I'm like, I don't know if Denny's does that, or maybe a few restaurants, and but depending on the situation that they say this to where if it's your birthday, and they would have the waiters and waitresses that they would sing, it's like a happy birthday, like to you, and that they would have the tambourine or something like that. They would come out to the restaurant, and then they would sing happy birthday, and then they would yeah. So and I remember that it was not Denny's, though. I think there was a few other restaurants. I think one of them, I don't think it was Bob Evans, but a few restaurants that I can remember going to where they would actually sing to you, and they would even offer you a like a a special ice cream or so, or brownie sundae. And I know a lot of times that whenever you get something for your birthday, it would a lot of times I guess be something sweet, such as maybe a dessert product or something. So anybody that may warrant where you go into Denny's and then thinking that especially on your birthday, and you're like warrant to where that yeah, I'd like to have a brownie covered coaster or something like that, or maybe that the chocolate blizzard or something like like the milkshakes, especially the milkshakes. And I know like some of the restaurants is to where those milkshakes, I know quite a few of them fill you up pretty good. So you're like wanting to where hot between the hot fudge sundaes and then the milkshakes, and especially anything related to like maybe Jello or anything like that. So whenever I go to a restaurant, that usually that they say that for like anything that you like that you expect to see on a restaurant, and a lot of it pretty nutritional foods especially. So I know sometimes that some kids, whenever they do go to a restaurant like Denny's, and then they may think it's to where that they look forward to maybe dessert time because that they want something sweet or something like that to eat, but on your hand, that something that maybe the kids would maybe like to have, I think would be something that such as maybe you know I think see a chicken. I don't know if it's chicken strips or anything like that, or chicken nuggets, or anything that is really anything small sandwiches, something like that. So the things that more likely that maybe kids would know that kids would enjoy, and I guess the way that they are served too. So it's like one toward that anything off the kids menu that we may find especially. So thinking about it to where that yeah, well I'll be your waiter, okay? What would you like? I could, well, I'll go ahead and recommend this to you, and I'll recommend that to you, and then and I tell you what, the young man or young lady of yours, like hey, how you doing? And like, well, I'll tell you, this is what it comes with. So I know a lot of times whenever you go into a restaurant that they say treat you like you're welcome, especially, and then they tell you about anything that they have on the menu, and then they may say is to where that yeah, well it's that and then anything that they may order, especially, and you're like warrant or anything that they may recommend, but they may say is to where that okay, well if you like to have that, and then if you want to maybe include something or maybe leave something out or so, but anyway, they have a talk about say for the Denny's commercial, and I know like with anybody that may warrant or that you'll get into like any type of web designing, it's like for like any type of designing for websites, and I know anybody that may warrant or that you have a job like to where you sometime in the future or so is to where that let's see what happens about that, but anyway, about Denny's though, it's like for anything that more likely that looks good, it's like for anything on the menu, especially. So, but on your hand, I talk about it's like for like for you to come by to Denny's and then enjoy the meal, and as well as between the hours of this time, so like or that time, like you'll be able to find something special that you like off the menu, and other than that, I talk about say for the commercials, and I know with the commercials though is that I can remember back whenever I had a VCR at the time, I can remember I recorded a lot of those commercials. Whenever I recorded the Three Stooges tapes, and I can remember is to where that yeah, whenever I would watch some of those old commercials, even though if they were some of them that may still come on at times, but then some of them that don't still come on. And I kept thinking about anybody that may warrant to where if you're going to be putting together maybe a meal, a menu, anything such as maybe an ad or something like that for a restaurant, then thinking about is to where anybody that may say, well, how about include like what you call is like maybe the location is like the address, and as well as that for who's going to be what you call managing the cooks the cooks menu, and as well as maybe the dishes, and then it's like yeah, that anything that's related to like maybe special buy for coupon deals or anything like that, or special hours or something like that. So I could likely say if I were to put together a website, I would, include like if I had enough room, which I know that you might say that side with the drawing tools or so that be able to draw a number of things that would represent. It's like that we are located on this size, say of town or so, and like you'll come on in, come in, for a nice meal, and a lot of times, it's like you're looking at those commercials, and I kept thinking about necessarily to her, really, am I going to be able to get a job, doing something like that, or if anything, just be thinking about doing an activity about it. And so I'm like, warrant to her, and like with anybody, that, I would be doing one for Denny's and doing an activity for Denny's, but then, somebody that may recommend, hey, you ought to do one for IHOP, or maybe do one for Waffle House, or maybe for other another restaurant or so. And I'm like, well, I'll see what happens. But as of right now, it's for Denny's. But anyway, but they have a talk about here stuff for Denny's, and then Denny's online. Thanks for watching, Man Make 25, and have a great day.